Let's talk about depression. Let's talk about what depression really feels like and how to get out of the rut. I wish someone could have given me this advice years ago and saved me so much heartache and just being stuck in a really shit place for a long time. I wish someone had this advice to give to me. So I want to share this with you because it completely changed my life. But let's first talk about what depression really feels like, because I think we get very analytical. We talk, in the mind, and we get all like professor like when we talk about mental health and personal development and spiritual growth and all these things. But let's just talk about what it really feels like, because I definitely had bouts of moments of depression as, growing up. And it was like dipping your toe into this black tar briefly, for a few weeks, months, but not very long, and then kind of being pulled back out. And I don't really know how, like looking back, how I got pulled out, but I think there were enough other things going on in my life to have pulled me out. But as an adult, this phase of depression, this real depression, I did not see it coming. And by the time I realized I was very depressed, it was almost like too late. Like you couldn't undo it. It's like you were stuck in the mud. And what it feels like is like being in this black hole of nothingness. It's like, it's darkness. It's a black hole. And everything in life is like this is how I felt. Everything was a black and white film with no color, no vibrancy, no taste. There was no flavor left in life. Like food didn't taste the same. Experiences that used to bring me joy felt numb. I felt completely numb. And the problem I faced was, okay, I was aware I was depressed, and I was sinking deeper and deeper. Like I was like, oh no, uh-oh. And I would have very negative thoughts, which I won't repeat here. But like the more that I realized I was depressed, it didn't help me get out of it. I was just sinking. Every day that passed, I was getting deeper, and it was going to be harder to get out. And the traditional methods of treating this, addressing this, and healing didn't work for me. It didn't work at all. So 5 things you're grateful for. You're not grateful for anything when you feel so much pain and darkness and numbness and life has lost its meaning. How can you be grateful when you don't care about life anymore? So that didn't work for me. Going and seeing a therapist at the time, I found it was actually hurting me more, because therapists would tell me to accept the feelings, or they'll tell me just to distance from the feelings and see them as like thoughts floating down, and do something that feels good each day and all these things. And I'm like, that doesn't help me. It felt like at that time, for what I was going through, it felt like it was gaslighting me. I felt like I was being gaslighted. Like I even had one therapist tell me, I was like, I think I'm really depressed. Like I'm really, really depressed. And she said, everyone's depressed. I'm like, you've got a PhD. Like, surely that's not the first response you should give to a patient. Like, I laugh about it now, but at the time, I was like, am I not depressed? And you just end up being more disassociated from yourself, because a lot of the treatment was actually disconnecting you from yourself. And what I discovered later on in my healing journey was I actually needed to be more connected to myself, not less. I was already so far from my own heart and my own soul. The last thing I needed was to step further back and like watch myself like this, like a camera, kind of observing my thoughts and my feelings. It's like, we don't want to observe those thoughts and feelings. They're pretty nasty, and they're not going to lead to a good outcome if we keep sitting here thinking these things. You know what I'm talking about, right? We don't need to repeat the words here, but you know what I'm talking about. So the feeling of depression was everything that brought me joy, everything that brought me like meaning in life was gone. And I couldn't rationalize it. I couldn't go, but I love the beach, or I love this IT career, or I love cycling, or I love going and seeing live music, or whatever it was. I love going out for tacos, all these material things. It didn't help. It didn't help. And I didn't know what to do. And I knew that I could have gone down a path of getting some form of external medication to change my internal medication, my internal chemical balance. And it's totally fine if you go down that path, all right? You do you. But I'm going to talk about people who were like me, who are like, I don't want to do that. And it's not that I haven't done that before in some form, for different mental and physical needs. I certainly have. But at this point in my life, I was seeing a lot of friends who had been on these prescriptions saying, oh my God, I feel nothing. Like, they were saying that you don't feel the lows, but you don't feel the highs. They were suffering from like gut issues. They were suffering from insomnia, massive weight gain, acne. Just everything was kind of out of balance, even though one certain area was in balance, and they lost their sex drive. And I was like, I don't want that. And I don't want to pay all this money. And the worst was hearing friends going, I can't get off it. Because when I try and get off, everything comes back. And I was like, oh God, that's scary. I was like, if I'm like this, we can't get worse. We can't get worse than the state I'm in. And I thought, well, that's risky. There's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. And I really question a lot of these companies, because these companies who create these products have absolutely no incentive to make you heal, to make you feel better. Isn't that ironic? They're profiting off you being in this state. They're profiting. I would love to see a medical system where you pay to stay healthy, and when you're not well, physically or mentally, you don't have to pay your monthly subscription. Like, wouldn't that change the whole incentive, right? So I made a conscious choice. I went, okay, I know that's an option, but I want to try another path. Because there's got to be something else. And I could not find the answers anywhere. And I swear that they were angels guiding me, because I came up with this idea that kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. And there was a little bit of stories that I saw on YouTube that gave me a bit of influence, but I just created my own plan. And I feel like this was my soul talking to me. And what I realized was what got me into this really dark black hole of nothingness was not what was going to get me out. So what got me in there was aligning to this IT career, showing up in certain ways in relationships, living a certain life, living in a particular city, identifying with certain things, having a certain personality, looking at life, like the whole purpose of life a certain way. I actually had to go, oh, that's actually not working for me. And this is why I have depression, because everything that makes my life what it is right now is actually not working. And that's the biggest secret to depression, is that you don't want to accept your life the way it is. You don't want to get to a place of, I'm just going to accept it. The reason why you're in that state is there is such a big disconnection between you and who you really are. There is pain that hasn't been healed that is asking for your love and attention and kindness and compassion. And the way you're living your life actually isn't aligned with who you really are. So it's like your heart, your soul is screaming to you saying, this is not working. I'm going to give you the biggest wake-up call of your life so that you drastically change your life. And I'm going to make the stakes so high that if you don't do it, there's a certain outcome that can come from this. And you know what I'm talking about, right, my friend? So that's what makes it so critical. And I realize if I don't make a drastic change in my life, there's one outcome that I'm going to get to, and it's not a good one. And that option is always there. When you're in such a black hole, the option's there. The option's like, hi, we're here. And you look at that. You will look at that every minute, every hour, every day. And for a long time, that option's still kind of sitting there in the side going, hey, we're always here if you want to kind of exit out. Trying to put humor on something that's pretty tough, right? And becoming aware of that and going, okay, that's sitting there, cool. All right. That's always there. That's always an option. That might be what you need. What some people are in so much pain that that feels like it's the only option. But I had to come to this realization that I had to radically, completely change my life. And because the exit was always there, I realized that, well, I could take a bit more risk in life. I could be a bit more daring because I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about what anyone thought of me. I didn't care. I didn't have any meaning in life. Nothing felt good. So I kind of had nothing to lose. Like the risk analysis is like everything is a low risk. And that actually at the time was the most freeing thing for me because I then went through this process of shedding everything that I knew of who I was. And I mean everything of who I thought I was. And I went on this journey, and it was a roller coaster journey. And I'm just looking at my notes, my friend. I scribbled 5 minutes ago. Yeah. And that for me, like that moment of thinking, I'm going to commit to the biggest roller coaster of my life. I'm going to give life a chance. I'm going to do things that I never gave myself permission to do, that I was always too scared to do, that I was too worried about people's judgment. I was too worried about getting hurt. I was too worried about making a mistake. I went, you know what? I'm going to do everything. and and I still felt depressed for quite a long time and still dipped and dipped and dipped. It's just the dipping was not as deep, like over time, and it wasn't as frequent. But it took a good maybe 18 months for me. But what happened in my life was at the time I was living in this like super cool suburb in Brisbane called Tenerife, and super trendy, and everyone's like hot, wearing like gym gear everywhere, like they don't own any other clothes, and like going to the gym and being super healthy and just like sleek, right? Like, and everyone's really good looking, and everyone's taking care of their health and trying to be their best version of themselves. And kudos to them. It was a good environment to be around. I picked up a lot of good habits, and I was working corporate IT. I was on this crazy high day rate. Like I was on one of the highest day rate contracts in the country, working for this big global company, and had this like track record I was building. But I needed to actually get completely out of my life. And I was so led. I'm so glad. I had so many signs that I was being led by angels, right? They work with us, whether we give them credit or not, but they totally worked with me. And I didn't realize at the time. I didn't believe in spirit at the time. I was totally like, there was nothing beyond this world but my life here, and the fact that I was really depressed, and I was not tapping in. But what happened was I decided to leave Brisbane and go to this place called Byron Bay, which most people I guess, have heard of in some form. But it's an area called the Northern Rivers. And the Northern Rivers, I didn't actually spend a lot of time in Byron. I lived in one of the areas, the small towns. But the Northern Rivers is energetically and spiritually really powerful. So what I did was I completely, like literally got my life and flipped it upside down without even realizing what I was doing. I left Brisbane, moved to the country, moved to a cabin that was semi off grid, started walking barefoot on grass, being surrounded by trees instead of construction and partying and dogs barking. I actually heard birds and I saw stars for the first time in 10 years. I hadn't seen stars. And I started to tune into myself, and I then left IT, I left corporate, and I kind of was in this haze, in this bubble for a long time. And this whole story, I think I'll share in another video, and how I really got out. I think that needs multiple videos to talk about like each phase of what to do. But I think the first thing that I want to share with you is that depression, it's your wake up call. It actually, in some ways, becomes a gift. And I'm not saying that you should go through depression, because, and I've had people tell me that, like, oh, that was so good. You were depressed. Look at what came out of it. I'm like, it wasn't good that I was so depressed. I may not have made it out of there. I may not have made it. That's not a tightrope you want to be walking on. That's not a I'm just going to try this for my own spiritual journey. It's like, yeah, but one tiny thing and you're off. So I would not wish that on anyone. But there was something that, and I don't think I'll ever go through that again because of all the changes I made in my life and the work that I've done and the different framework I have for my consciousness and soul. And I'll talk about that in more videos. But it was a wake up call for me, which was, this is not working for you. This is not working for you. And you have to drastically change your life, and you have to be willing to do it, even when you don't feel good, even when you do it and you still don't feel good, even when you do it and you still feel completely lost and you're like, what the hell am I doing? Where am I living? What am I doing here? You know, should I put my stuff in storage and go to Africa and just forget the Western world? You won't have an answer instantly. It'll be millions and millions of steps. But the one thing that you have to be willing to do is go on a crazy big roller coaster and completely change your life and change everything of who you thought you were, change how you connect with yourself. Like, are you even connected to yourself? Are you really connected to your heart? Are you connected to your soul? Are you tuning in, or are you just pushing everything aside? And what are the kind of relationships you want to have in your life? How are you showing up in your life? Why are you here? What's the point of all this? You know, we try to treat depression by treating people with the things that are actually making them depressed. It's like, oh, maybe you should have a goal in your career, but I don't care about my career. I don't give a shit. I would be happy to never have gone back into IT again. Spoiler alert, I did go back, but as a completely different person with a whole different relationship to life and work and money and existence. Again, more videos coming. But you have to be willing to completely change your life, go on a roller coaster, dare, and just go and literally completely shed everything of who you are and build anew and start again. And I don't mean like go and get a Ferrari or just get a haircut. I mean like the deep, although those things can be really cool, right? Because they change your perception of yourself. You know, you start to build your own persona, your character in this game of life. They do help, and yeah, you will do that. But it's also getting into those deeper layers of who are you really? Who are you really? And coming home to your own soul, your own heart, and remembering who you really are. I wish someone told me this, because I would have started it way earlier had I'd known, when I first realized that I was getting into this rut, because I was in this rut for such a long time. And the longer I was in there, the more dangerous it became for me. It wasn't like, I'm depressed, I don't know what to do, we'll just continue with life. It was like so critical. But I knew that going down certain paths were options, but I didn't want that. It didn't appeal to me. I still had a sense of like, nah, that's not for me. There's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. I don't want to accept the life that I'm in. I don't want to just be grateful for the life I'm in. I hate this life. I hate it. It had no meaning for me. So going on that roller coaster and being committed to going, okay, this is a really big wake up call, massive. And everything that I thought of what life was and who I was, just delete and start with a blank canvas. And that was the beginning of the journey a few years ago. And I would have never guessed ever that I would be where I am now, living my life with the awareness I have now of myself and the meaning I have in life now. And I couldn't get from there to here in one go. But it was the radical commitment to, all right, let's just try this adventure and see what happens. And giving it time, like, let's just do this, give it 2 years, not a month, that's not enough time. Give it 2 years and give it time and be committed to trying everything and just seeing life as like this adventure and doing things that you never gave yourself permission to do, spending money on things you never gave yourself permission to do, having experiences that you never gave yourself permission to have. and kind of shed who you were, all the makeup of who you were based on all your life experiences, and start again. So, my friend, I'm giving you a massive hug. I'm giving you a massive hug, and I want you to know that I totally get it, and I get it from the heart how it feels, and you're not alone. Um, and this is not something you can logically get yourself out of. It can't come from the mind. It's got to come from the heart. But the fact that you're here and you're watching this, I want you to know that you are so deeply loved and you're so beautiful and you have so much power within you. And there is a version of you that wants to come to life that is calling. It's a wake-up call. It's saying, hey, this new chapter you're ready for it now. It's time to shed the old and get onto this roller coaster and just see what a whole new version of life could be. I'm giving you a massive hug. Please be gentle with yourself. You are so deeply loved. And if you haven't already, start the journey now. Now is your time. Now is your wake-up call. Thank you.